What's up, everyone? I've been kind of a bad mood the last couple of days. It's still a lot of the same old nonsense that's going on, and a lot of my patience is running thin. I don't even know how I have an ounce of patience left. The immaturity, in particular in the African American community, but you can clearly see it's instigated by white supremacy, but people aren't that educated, or at least they pretend not to be. And that's what's ticking me off. I mean, it's a return to the 80s, and it's so frustrating to see this behavior return and to see predatory behavior become normalized. I don't know why on earth anyone would want to normalize predatory behavior unless it had an agenda. And I think I saw this coming many years ago, but something interrupted it, and then it stopped. Then we had a wave of intelligent people come from wherever they came from. I don't know which one was COINTELPRO and which one was the bad guy, but things have returned back to awful again. All this nonsense about seriously looking at someone's profile on Facebook and then telling someone else they look totally different. Looking at a live video, she doesn't really look like that. Just can you move that for me? Telling just immature, childish, belligerently idiotic things about people to make themselves seem like they're popular. It's happening in music. Can't be a coincidence. It's happening even in education. I told you I was quite surprised by that colorism thing. If you guys follow me on Twitter, thank you, then you'll see that I just said something about music, which I think everyone's noticing, how it's being dumbed down. And you guys know that's a sociological definition. I'm not just making that word up or that phrase up. So it's in particular that violence is not, that simulated violence is becoming real violence. So at this point we have people who are pretending but out loud. If you're a kid, you have a disability like my son, who tends to go into Thomas Land, Thomas the Tank Engine Land, we'll give you a pass. But if you're an adult and you're still wandering around pretending, and then putting that pretend into pretend action, and it's almost like, really honestly, it's a predator. It's a predatory situation. It's someone who has passive-aggressive tendencies towards violence, and then one day just acts upon the violence. Sometimes they're serial killers. Sometimes their psychopathy leads them into rape and serial killing. There's so many different areas that type of narcissism can lead someone into, and because the black community is being dumbed down, they act like they don't see it. And of all people to attack would be me, to try to find some flaw. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's so see-through. But, it's manifesting in physical attacks, but not obvious physical attacks for obvious reason, or attacks for obvious reasons, because I would fight back. It's sneakiness. It's childishness. It's unbelievable amounts of stupidity. It's strange behavior, sexual predatory natures that I don't even think the 80s had it that bad. But I guess they're waiting for a reaction. They're waiting for someone to. I won't get angry because I lived through my anger, and that's how I survived. If you knew what I had to go through, what I've gone through, what I lived through, you live through that anger, as Audre Lorde said, because it allows for you to live your life fully and to understand that you have a right to be angry. It doesn't mean that you're afraid of everything because you're angry. Sometimes you have the right to be angry. And trust me, I do. When people attack you out of the blue, when people are constantly jealous, and that small amount of insecurity that you have about maybe somebody's following me, maybe someone in the apartment next to me is a bit of a fruitcake, and that's not a nice term to use, but I'm going to use it today. Yeah, those things are manifesting into reality. And it's not very often that someone like me has a lot of insecurities. Sometimes we don't at all. We just don't realize it because we come from environments where we've seen it, but we've not encountered it up close. These environments, and you can see from the rap music, from the gangs, from all this stuff, a lot of this stuff is actually being created. And I want you guys to realize that the inner cities that they're going to for this gang violence, they're specifically creating these characters in some instances. Sometimes these kids are, leaders of these gangs are brought up from, from when they're children. Sometimes they don't know any better, sometimes they do. And they're specifically put in the press. They're specifically doing the same rituals, have the same practices, and they're all inciting violence, drug use. And even though I don't see sexual violence promoted, I know they participate in it. But mostly the sexual violence is that old white man, nasty old fart, and then black men too. That nastiness from 1970s, when we didn't have surveillance cameras. This perverted nonsense. This is what we're seeing playing out. Ridiculous amounts of things. That's, as I told you guys, know about the light skin privilege argument, because that doesn't exist, and how it promotes sexual violence, and how I cannot stand the person who's doing this in academia, because it is promoting us as being something we're not. And that always explodes when immigration hits, because there are other brown people that look like us and we don't realize. Again, I did post something on my Twitter where the guy went to India, and he specifically goes in many instances to places to show people who are considered Afro this and Afro that. In other countries, we call ourselves black here. But anyway, I'm just detesting the violence. I'm detesting the nonsense. If you see someone in front of you every single day presenting themselves as something, you're going to try to find a flaw because you're jealous, because you're insecure. You're going to try to help someone attack this person. This has got to stop. I mean, this is basically Hood Rat 101. They brought these people out from the depths of the hood. It is absolute racism, and all they promote is stupidity. All they do is twerk in your face. All they do is act up. All they do is harass people. All they do is gossip. All they do is lie. All they do is have, manifestations of violence in their videos, whether it be YouTube, whether it be music, whatever it be what, and then trying to get you to act upon that violence in some way. And all of it is a system of denial. I mean, we all grew up poor where I come from, or at least moderately, low to middle class. And I'm telling you, and I'm 48 years old, and I have not seen violence this bad, in years, especially not sexual violence. That is the serial killer mode, which is why they were showing Jeffrey Dahmer the other day. You know why? Because it's an appropriate time to show it. I don't know if it's going to help. As some people say, it promoted that type of violence. Maybe it will show people what happened to him and how he went to jail, and they'll, try to get some help, is all I can say. But the younger generation does not necessarily get the picture all the time. And I can't blame all young people. Some young people get it. And sometimes it's, some older people out here still acting crazy, pretending to date people they don't know, pretending that when something happens in someone's life, it's because they were there. You stayed somewhere because this person is pretending to be in a relationship with you, and it was some dynamic that in his or her mind has something to do with that party, and not just because of financial things. I mean, we're talking about some serious mental problems. When you start reimagining to the point where you can't function, and someone else becomes a proxy for every insecurity that you have, you need to go talk to someone and get some therapy. And there's nothing wrong with that. You think with all the stress that African American people have had, from slavery on to raising kids by ourselves and doing everything that we do, that we would be the ones to say, okay, I want to ball it up inside, and yeah, that was my mother, fistful of tears. That's why we don't get along, and we're estranged, because she's always like that, always upset, always taking it out on someone, always hiding something. And oftentimes that object of that anger is going to be one of us, and I don't tolerate someone disrespecting me or my children. They don't even like it. They're like, when is it time to go? I don't know. I haven't seen her in 6-7 years. It's ridiculous. We've got to stop pretending that there are not problems in the African American community that are being multiplied by white supremacists. Methods and methodology. This has been planned. Your pawns. There are people specifically in the black community that are participating in it, and I'm just disgusted. Whether it be someone even I knew 10, 15 years ago, it's like, that's really sick. That is serial killer mode. That is serial rapist mode. They try to make rape into a joke. It's not a joke. Stalking is not funny. They tell you to ignore people that are helping you. There's a post I made about religion and the cross symbol and why it was ancient. It's not saying you can't be a Christian. It's saying it's an ancient symbol that happened before Christianity. And everything that was attached to it was not attached to the Christian religion. That's a brainwash. And I'm going to give you a hint. There's a lot of things in your life that they've lied to you about, just like they lied to you about that cross symbol. Doesn't mean you can't be pious. I'm quite sure from the beginning it didn't mean piety, but it was later corrupted into whatever it was made into. So anyway, I mean, people are here trying to help you. I'm sitting here, being the honest person I always am and being depicted as I'm some type of immature loser where someone else gets off on it. Normally I don't care what other people think, but if that person has a tendency towards violence and has access to it because the police department does not give a damn about black women, about the black femicide that's going on, about us dying, this has been planned. Some of these freaks may be police officers. That is quite common. There's a lot of stories in the news about police officers, correctional officers. I think they just had one that was disgusting. It was a 12-year-old child, and it was just the other day. It was on the guy who does gosh, I can't think of it, but I mean, what is it, it's the news show, but it's the Young Turks, but then they have the black guy, the host. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He does a lot of stories about police violence and things like that, and he talked about a 12-year-old who was assaulted by 4 different police officers. I don't know if one of them was a correction officer or not, but she passed, or actually she committed suicide. This is disgusting. This is depravity. We're dealing with denial, and I don't deny anything. If there's a problem, I address it. If there are people who are pretending, I address that. But I can't address people who I don't see, who I don't know, and generally I don't care about. But if that person in some way is causing a problem for myself or my family, I'm going to address it, and I'm going to take care of it. I can't understand stupid people. I don't understand it. There's no street code. There's no logic. There's no intelligence. There's nothing. There's pretend. We're going to pretend all this is true and then act upon what we're pretending. Nick Cannon having, 29 babies. I mean, really? Something is happening here. Something's going on. And normally when people hide things, it's because there's a violent tendency underneath. We need to stop trying to gossip so much and be observant, making sure we're not projecting that violence onto someone who doesn't deserve it. But I don't think people are really at that level. Not that I'm sitting on my high horse or anything, but I'm just saying, give me a break. We're grown here. A lot of us are grown people. We're in 30s and 40s, and we're out here gossiping like, it's no tomorrow. Depravity, causing lots of violence, and having no accountability. It's all right to report on something, to talk about things, but it is not okay to constantly do that and live in this world that I think people planned. A lot of these people that are participating, like I say, I don't know if it's COINTELPRO, I don't know who it is, but they're just actors. And you're following behind these people, and not just to be nosy, but all the time, and taking these people as your role models, whether they be singers, whether they be whatever. And these people are not anything but actors. And I don't want to hurt your self-esteem. You do have a right to have someone that represents you, but you want somebody that's not using you. It is like brainwashing. It's like mind control. The way that you follow these celebrities, and these people, a lot of them don't care anything about you. You care more about them than what you care about what's going on in your own life. You care more about somebody else's financial situation than your own. And then when you do care about someone, it's always indicative of some violent tendency. Why? Sexual assault. How much money does she have? You're robbing, you're raping. That's all over the TV screen. Home invasions. Just all these black men doing things. And then you show George Floyd. Then you have Chicago, because of all the injustices of the civil rights movement, which of course we're still in. Come on. They're going to have no bail and then let these people out on the street. And because we're all, the black crew, we're going to sit down here and pretend like there's no violence in the black community. And that person who's a perv, who's a gangbanger, who's a wife beater, is going to be let out on the street or left up to the judge to decide. And we all know there's corruption as far as judges are concerned. You can look right at that situation with Trump and that special master and see that there's corruption where the judges are concerned at the highest level. He appointed her, as well as Amy Coney Barrett and all those people in the Supreme Court, the beer drinker, whatever his name was. I can't remember his name. But you can clearly see that there's corruption in the judicial system. And it's easily corruptible. It's easily bribable. And you're going to have murderers out on the street. You're going to have people who have good relationships with the judge out on the street. People lying to the judge, getting cozy with the judge out on the street. And it's already bad when people are out on probation. As soon as they get out, they kill people. They rape people. They do even more harm. Now, and then Chicago's not going to be the only city, trust me. Now it's going to be worse. At least half for nonviolent offenses only, like in California, right? When that new safety law comes out in January. But it doesn't say that yet. Not unless they revise it for January. I don't know. So anyway, I have to go. I was going to say, my hearing has been going in and out. I swear I was in my apartment and I just hear this vibration. The world like revolves around vibration. That's why I listen to binaurals. That's why a number of musical genres are based upon binaurals, even if you don't realize they're there. But it was such a vibration, I can't describe it. I couldn't hear, but it was like sonic almost. And then my hearing. Now, I had been sick, so I said, okay, well, maybe it's that. Maybe it's COVID. I took a COVID test, not COVID. And I still sometimes have this vibratory hearing going in and out. And there are a number of conditions that could be attached to that. And I'll check on that. But it was something very strange. Something giving me a headache, something making me dizzy at the top. As I said, it could be a medical condition. Who knows? After all I've been through, the harassment, it could be a number of things. So I'm just, it's been so many different types of harassment. It's like to a point where I cannot live or work around anyone. And no one should have to do that, because if you also live by yourself and you're away from all that, then they have an easier access to you, meaning violence is easier to be accessible if you're by yourself and you're, far away. Everyone wants their privacy, but then you don't want to sit up here and think that that's going to help you either, because if a person is a psychopath, they think like a psychopath. They want you to be alone. And if they can't get you alone, if you're around other people, then they're still going to be sneaky. And that's pathetic, being a coward like that. But you're letting someone else rule your life to a point where you can't even live because someone else has mental health issues. If you ever get to that point, and I'm telling you, I've seen this so many times where things have happened to me and then they've happened on a larger scale. I don't know if, I don't know why they would be doing a psychological study with me when I've agreed to nothing other than being criminals. Especially with me having a degree in psychology, they're just going to ignore that too, I guess. People are really fake. People are see-through. Anything you're doing that I'm saying is happening and I'm not agreeing to is just like putting your hand over someone's mouth like a rapist. It is rape. And that's not a metaphor that I use lightly. Anyway, I have to go. I have my family here, as you guys know. I'm going to say hi at the door.
Hey.
I don't think you can see him.
Hey, we gotta go.
Gotta go. Say hi, Jazz. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Bye.